am Jonnita Stanton. We have Reginald Perryman, Kashka Williams. We are TSARE, and this is There's Something About Real Estate podcast, where we talk all things real estate. And we have with us today special guests Eugene Kelley and Ken Scott. Okay.
Right.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, how are you?
See Ken over there on the road.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Ken riding
So you
around
guys are
making some
gonna
money.
you guys are gonna talk to us a little bit about neighborhood stabilization by way of the NEZ and Detroit Land Bank, correct?
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I guess we'll start with Gene.
So Gene, can you tell us, explain what exactly is the Detroit Land Bank? Yes. The Detroit Land Bank is it's a organization in Detroit. It's an affiliate that basically holds a bundle of homes or properties. All right. You have it's a separate entity. It's city run. It's run by various boards, and it answers to city council ultimately. And it's basically like a holding space for properties. They have commercial, residential, vacant land, and some bundles. And oftentimes, as you know, the city of Detroit does not have a lot of contiguous property. So oftentimes properties are taken either through Wayne County tax foreclosure or anything like that, and they're put into that land bank to be dispersed for various projects or sold at different entities. And that's just a clearinghouse for properties to either been given for development and what have you.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Okay.
So, go ahead, Jonnita.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So basically, there's a Detroit Land Bank and then there's a county land bank, correct?
Yes. So basically, what you're looking at is just again, the assumption would be is that it's just different jurisdiction. Okay. So you have so hypothetically, let's assume you have a state land bank where it's and that's a different bureaucracy that's handling, that reports to different people. So, and then it goes to your county land banks, which is a larger jurisdiction, and down to your city land banks. So Detroit has a large, land bank, and that is as of last year when we joined, they had 96,000 parcels, and so that's vacant land, commercial, residential, and dilapidated properties. So I believe it's the largest bundle of properties, or one of the largest bundles of properties in the state.
All right.
Okay. So how does a property become part of the land bank? How does that happen?
Well, typically it's the land bank, the property, it sits on the Wayne County tax, usually sits as a tax foreclosure, right? And if it sits as a tax foreclosure, Oakland, Wayne, what have you, and oftentimes it's gone to auction. Typically, the properties that go to auction and they're taken off, they're bought by the regular consumer or the government, or bought back by the cities or what have you. And if they're bought back, then they go off the rolls. Well, there's always those delinquent individual properties that just sit. They roll over from the spring, they roll over to the fall, and they just keep going and going and going, and nobody wants to bother with them. Well, over time, these properties are accruing taxes, and they're just blighted, and they need somewhere to go, and they're not getting any, collecting any tax revenue. So the land bank will take them over and grab them and put them in their bundle. There's also properties, let's say, for example, if there's a major development going to happen, and the city needs to acquire a swath of land for something, like i.e. a extension to city airport, or Amazon is coming to town or something like that, they may take those properties by eminent domain and put them into the land bank pile and prepare them for sale or distribution to another entity. So oftentimes it's the delinquent Wayne County properties and the biggest blighted properties that end up in the land bank first.
Well, I got a question. So
Yes,
you
sir.
said something about the eminent domain.
Mm-hmm.
So they can take property that's not necessarily dilapidated or in tax foreclosure using that.
Any government agency has that opportunity, whether it's the land bank or the county or such, that remains to be seen. But as you know, the definition of eminent domain is basically when a government entity basically says, I'm taking your property. Oftentimes they probably will compensate you for it, because oftentimes, they usually by way of easement, it might be because you have to put a roadway through or a utility line in or something like that. So it's really not a bad, well, it's typically not a bad thing. But again, for those that know your history, that's how we lost Black Bottom and other parts of the city.
In Paradise Valley.
In Paradise Valley, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I.e. I-75.
and 375, exactly.
And 96.
Right. Yeah. So how does somebody purchase a land bank property, and what are some of the programs?
Okay. Land bank, if you go to their website, and again, I'm versed in one part of the land bank, but there are 4 ways typically to buy the properties. They have the auction, which is what everybody knows. You go online, and I believe it's a daily or weekly auction, and you can go on there and you can look at what the offerings are. Oftentimes you have to make an appointment to see them, or they might have open houses for those properties, and you bid on them, just like eBay or what have you, or any tax sale auctions. You go on there and you say, okay, I think the bid started at $1,000, and they go for a certain amount of time, and they could go up to as high as $10,000 or $20,000. But once whoever wins the bid, wins the bid. There's also rehabbed and ready. The rehabbed and ready is basically a situation where these dilapidated homes are fixed up and resold on the open market, either through realtors or through the auction. And then there's the Own It Now program, where the same type of auction properties are out there, and they just give you just a general bid. Okay, bid this, you got it. And so that's the case. That's for that particular case. As far as what I do, there's that 4th piece that you don't see on their website, where you see it, but it's always at the bottom, but the other 3 are more popular. We're the listed or brokerage properties, where the properties are actually gone out and the land bank has contracted various realtors to put them on the multiple listing service and advertise them for sale. And we as the brokers have the option, we have the opportunity to show these at will, write the offers for them, and communicate directly to the land bank. So we are the liaison in the direct communication between the buyer and the Detroit Land Bank. So it's like a typical real estate transaction, because I am the conduit between the Detroit Land Bank and the consumer. And I believe right now, as it stands, there's about 5 of us that brokers. There were 3, and they added 2 more. I think there's 5 of us real estate brokers in the area that are Detroit Land Bank brokers. Myself, Real Estate One, Natasha Richards at Bella B Realty, Leonard Pickett and crew at RCH, Buffalino, and then I believe it's Summit Realty as well. So, and I know they're looking for more, but again, they haven't put out another RFQ. So that is a good opportunity for realtors to jump in. So at least I'm glad that they are starting to use realtors, because again, they're overwhelmed, because they have, again, 96,000 parcels or more available that need to be moved.
So that process, you said it's like a typical real estate transaction, but it's a little bit longer. You should expect a little bit longer wait.
Yes, definitely. So basically, when you do a typical real estate transaction, you look the property up, you see it online or on Zillow or Redfin or something like that, and say, hey, this property ABC is for sale for $10,000. And then you contact that agent and say, okay, here's your $10,000. You write up a purchase agreement, buyer or seller agrees to it, you write it up, and you close. That is a typical real estate transaction. However, that is not necessarily the case here. The land bank has various guidelines depending on the type of home that you're going to buy. Yes, you will contact me to see the property. An agent will be able to go into the MLS and do a search and say, hey, I'll make an appointment to see said property. But that's where it kind of stops. That's where it becomes an actual different type of situation. What the land bank wants you to do, they want you to write a pro forma, okay? And they want you to basically qualify for said property. They want you to make sure that, because these properties are unfortunately the worst of the worst, okay? If I told you before you got the auction, the Own It Now, and the others, those properties that are in those bundles are pretty much in better shape, more readily available. The properties that we have are probably not the greatest, and they're going to require the most amount of work and the most sophisticated type of investor to purchase them. So they're going to make sure, depending on the property, that there's certain guidelines that they want you to jump through in order to get them. So what they want you to do is they ask you several questions. So let's say, for example, if you were to buy a property that was a residential property. Well, what they want you to do is the following. Number one, provide a brief statement of who you are and why you want to purchase the property. Please also include a proposed purchase price, contact information for the buyer, a phone and email, and the name of the buyer or purchasing entity. They want to ask you, have you purchased any single family homes from the DLBA? They want to know what your estimated renovation cost and development timeline for your project is. They want a detailed scope of work if as helpful. How do you plan on financing the project? Please include the proof of funds for at least the equity portion of the development cost, in addition to pre-approval letters from lenders or construction loans if applicable. Do you have any single family home renovation experience? If so, please provide a portfolio of past work that includes addresses of renovated homes and before and after renovation photographs. What are your plans upon completion of the construction? Do you plan on selling the property or renting the property? Will you be hiring a contractor to perform the renovation work? If so, the names of the contractors and or companies you plan on using is helpful, including their Detroit experience and or experience with a similar product. You are welcome to submit additional information that you think would be helpful when evaluating proposals, such as letters of support, references, commitment to Detroit, etc. So you really have to basically know what you're doing. You liken that to a contractor writing up a bid for a job. So if you are not said contract, they're expecting you to have contractors on hand because they want you to basically, when you buy this property, they want you to make sure that you have the money to buy it and the money to fix it up on go. Okay. They're not going to be waiting on you. I'll just wait till the spring. I'll buy it in the winter. I'll wait till the spring to fix it up. No, they want you to be able to get ready, get started, and go forward.
So it sounds like basically, and that varies depending on the type of properties they buy, whether it's a commercial or it's vacant land. There's just a few little nuances between the different types of property, but the basics are the same, correct? They need to know that you have some experience, that you have the purchase price in addition to the renovation costs or development costs, correct? Yes. Okay. Yes. So when people ask you, they say like, oh, I seen this property for $10,000. I got $10,000. That's not enough, correct?
I mean, you have to tell me more than you have $10,000. And basically, I get a lot of investors from out of state, out of country, or locals that say, hey, I'm ready to buy this house. I'll do what I can. I actually explain to them, you have to qualify for this property. Okay. You could have $1 million, but if you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to get the property. Okay. The other thing that people think that they can just buy this property and sit on it. You can't. What the land bank does, they ask you specifically how long you think it's going to take you to fix this property up, and they want to hold you to that. And what they make you do is they make you sign a reversionary clause or a reconveyance deed at closing, meaning that if you do not follow the guidelines and you don't do what you say you're going to do, the land bank is going to take the property back from you, and all the equity that you might have put into it, you lose. So it is a very important thing that you know what you're doing and you know what task you're taking on when you buy these properties. Yes, they are cheap. And the reason we mark them cheap is because we know the work that you have to go through. But the thing about it is that we also know that you're going to end up running into an issue or two with this. You spend $3,000 on a property, you find out you bid off more than you charge. You say, you know what? It's only $3,000. I'm gonna walk it off. I'm just gonna chalk it up to nothing. But see, that's the problem. We don't want to chalk it up. We don't want to get the property back. We don't want that property back in our rotation, have to take it back from you. So we want to make sure we get it right the first time. So therefore, we're going to vet you out a little bit stronger, and you might get mad about it, but there's a method to our madness.
So if I'm hearing you right, that reversionary clause is in there, typically is 6 months, right? So
it varies.
It varies.
Yes. So basically, we ask you, you're going to tell us, because there's some properties that are bundles, right? It would be very hard for me to assume that one house is going to take you 6 months, and you bought two from me, so I shouldn't give you the same amount of time to fix up two as opposed to one. So you're going to tell us honestly, it may take you a year. Be honest, it may take you a year to get it done, and so we're expecting to do that. But let's say that you're working really hard, and you're short at that year period. We're going to extend you. Okay, we don't tell you that up front, but we're going to extend you. We do not want the property back. Okay, and so there's an internal number that they have where they'll extend it, but they're going to work with you because they don't want the property back. Now, there are certain things that happen where if 6 months go by and all you did was cut the grass, we're pulling the plug. But if you've actually gone through, you did the exterior, you did the roof, you did the plumbing and all that, you ran into an issue or a situation and you had some issues with electrical, but you didn't get all the windows in, you're still doing the final rough, we'll see that because we see before pictures and we see current pictures. We see how far you've got. And you're like, you know what, I need a couple more months. No problem. They'll give it to you. But the key is communication. But if you sit up here and 6 months go by and you're a ghost and nobody's heard from you, we got to track you down, that property's coming back.
Right.
So what I hear from you is that there are guidelines in place to, make sure that people that are purchasing the homes that have to still be rehab, that they're actually doing that. Now, when a person is going in to make the purchase, a lot of times you have a pre-warning there about a tax capture. And, it sounds pretty scary that the Detroit Land Bank can come up to, I don't know, when you explain the tax capture.
Sure, I can do that. The Detroit Land Bank has a tax capture, and let's see. I can read it to you. Now, I think I can find it. Are you allowing us to share our screens?
Yeah, let me set that up for you. All right, you should be able to share now.
Okay. All right.
And while he's, oh, go ahead.
All right. So what happens is that, and this is what we put, because I do a lot of these listings, I actually typed it up and put it somewhere where I can just copy and paste it. But this is the actual tax capture verbiage that we have to put on every property that we sell. It says, please note that the Detroit Land Bank Authority is entitled to a tax capture for the 5 tax years subsequent to transferring ownership of the property. The tax capture may be incompatible with tax abatements and lot combinations that are otherwise available to the selected purchaser. DLBA will review requests to waive its tax capture rights and may require a payment in lieu of taxes to approve such requests. The payment will be determined upon reviewing the development pro forma and effect of any tax abatements on the purchase and development financing. Please refer to DLB proposal guidelines. Now, you guys are savvy real estate people, and you don't have a clue what I'm talking about.
No, I don't. Scared. I don't want to buy a Detroit Land Bank property. Sounds like I'm gonna be responsible for something for 5 years.
Exactly. So number one, let me tell you this: we are required to put that at the bottom of every listing we put out there. Okay. Number two, here is the long and short of it. All right. These properties start off as Wayne County tax foreclosures, right? And they are sitting there all, years and years and years go by. And as you know, any property that's on the Wayne County books is basically accruing taxes. And so those taxes have to be waived because the person that buys them, they're not paying that back tax. They're buying at the auction. Well, long story short is that these properties sit there so long, they gotta be dealt with. Once these properties are taken over by the land bank clears them off. They take all the taxes, all those taxes go to zero. Water bills, liens, everything. They put them at the title company. That's why they take so long for them to get back to, get these properties out ready for sale. And so when you buy a Detroit Land Bank property, when you buy it and put it back on the books, that property has no taxes due. So if you look at that, you'll see zero when you see it listed. When that property is bought by an individual, it gets transferred back to the Wayne County books. And that's at that time, that's when the taxes start becoming accrued. Well, what we're saying and what this basically says is this: the land bank has the right to go back to the county for 5 years and say, I babysat this property for you for this amount of time. I'm entitled to some of those taxes that would have been accrued had you had that property in your care. And so in essence, that is an accounting move between Wayne County and the Detroit Land Bank. It has nothing to do with your buyer. The only way it has anything to do with your buyer is if the person, if you were buying a big swath of land, you were doing a major development, and you use the keyword tax abatements or tax credits as part of your financing. If you didn't, all you were planning on doing was buying cash on cash, then you don't have to worry about any of that.
So basically for the general public, so basically the average person buying a $10, $15, $20,000 cash sale through the land bank, that doesn't even apply to them.
So basically what I tell people is that after I explain it to them, when you start after you see the description, when you get to the part that says, please note, just stop reading. just stop reading. Don't even get yourself already worked up about it. We have to put this out there. And again, if the only way you have to worry about this is if you are doing a major development and part of your financing is a tax credit, or brownfield or tax abatement, something to do with taxes has to do with your financing. And at that point, you're gonna have an attorney or an accountant that's gonna walk you through that anyway. And so when they look at this, they're like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. We're good. But the average Joe Blow or the more sophisticated investor, he's not gonna be using the tax credits anyway.
Okay. So Shaka, you had a question. Right?
No, he answered it. I mean, you were saying the same thing. Basically, for the average individual purchasing that means nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So with the land bank, so when we're looking at these people buying these properties and going back to the revisionary clause in the deed, they can't sell that property to somebody else, right? Because we're hearing a lot about the quitclaim deed transfers and stuff like that.
So when you purchase, see, that's a thing too. Quitclaim deeds. You buy the property from the Detroit Land Bank on a quitclaim deed. What is a quitclaim deed? That is basically whatever interest I say I have is what I'm giving you. So that's what you're getting. However, as opposed to a regular quitclaim deed that you get from somebody off the street, or a father-son or a mother-daughter type quitclaim deed that you can trust, that quitclaim deed that we give you from the land bank is actually backed with title insurance. Title insurance is really your meat in this whole thing. You have a title policy saying that water is paid, taxes are up to date, any liens or anything like that, there's nobody coming after you. So the beauty of it is that you have the opportunity when you put that property up and bring it up to speed and bring it up to code, you have the opportunity to resell that unencumbered on a warranty deed. So you will be able to convey, and that's the main issue that most investors and most people want to do. Can I move that property? Can I convey it out in the open market at market value without any issue or hindrance? And the answer to that is yes. So as opposed to buying a property off of the tax auction where you're hit or miss, you have the full authority from the Detroit Land Bank that even though you go through these hoops and hurdles, once you buy that property, once you get it up to speed, you can dispose of it or convey said property legally and honestly and equitably. Well, I used a bunch of big words all in a row. Okay.
But there was two things in there. So you were saying, so one, you're saying, yes, you can sell that with no issues once you've
after you fixed it up.
Yeah, okay. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, so no, legally, until you get that lien, or what is it called? What are they placing on the property?
It is called a reconveyance deed.
Okay. So until that is satisfied, that reconveyance or whatever is satisfied, then legally you can't sell it. So people need to be just use a title company.
True. Very true. Right. So as opposed to, so basically what you're saying is what happens in real estate. Oftentimes I've been licensed for 22 years and I know what I'm doing. You all know what you're doing. There are those fly by night realtors that we call sometimes, well, I'm gonna just say it out. Some wholesalers that basically just want to kind of skirt the path and things like that. They buy a property. They tie up a property for $5,000 and then they go to Jimmy Bob or something like that and say, yeah, I got this property that I want to assign to you. And then they give it to somebody else for 10. And then next thing you know, that person finds somebody else for 20, and then they found somebody out of state for 40. So then there's nobody that had any money. And at the end of the day, nobody did any work. And that same property that was tied up for 5 ends up being resold for 20, and everybody made money except the guy in the end. With land bank, they're not gonna let you have that happen. Okay. You cannot move a property that fast. You have to actually do something to said properties. That's what they hold you to. Once you buy it, that's your baby. You can't dump it, you can't get rid of it, you can't not claim it, that you are the father. So you have to deal with that.
So quick question. So if I'm Joe Smo off the street and somebody's selling me a property and I do a title search and I see that they, or even if I didn't do a title search, if they say they purchased this property from the land bank, I need to see that the land bank has removed their interest before I buy the property, correct?
Well, there's two. Well, if you have your druthers, if the property is fully rehabbed and it has a certificate of occupancy, then more than likely, you can do that. You can do that part. If the house is raggedy and they say they bought it from the land bank and want to sell it to you, run, because they know they haven't gotten their revisionary interest back, right? If they if you see a house that looks brand new with everything and looks like it's spick and span and ready to go, they said they bought it from the land bank, there's a good shot they probably got it together, or they might be at the very end of getting their revisionary clause in place. But either way, you want to go to a title company, and the title company will tell you that, right? And the cool thing about the land bank, they use 5 different title companies. Hopefully they were smart enough to go back to the title company they got it from, because that's where they go back to the original policy.
Right.
They can also show like their C of O, because with the land bank, you're required to get a C of O from the trade, correct?
Right. Exactly. But see, the thing about
and if that lien is still on the property, that individual could probably have a release too by presenting a C of O, because that's all the land bank wants is that certificate of occupancy knowing that work was completed to release that lien.
Yeah. So the interesting part about this is this: as far as the revisionary to reconveyance deed, you sign your deed is conveyed to you at closing, your quitclaim deed. You sign the reconveyance deed at closing as well. So you're signing it back to the land bank the minute you buy it. So it's not about going back and forth. Hey, here's your, I really didn't do this or that and the other. And once they determine that you have defaulted, they just file the deed. There's no, oh, I'm sorry, let me give me more time, what have you. Once you have gotten to the point where you're default, they just file the deed and it's gone. So that's the piece you have to understand with that part, is that it's pretty straightforward with them. And the thing about it, you also have to understand what you're getting yourself into. This is not a speculative process. This is not just a simple, hey, this is my first time doing something, let me just try this. This is not a trial and error. You need to be, at least at this level of property, at these level of properties, you need to have a little bit of experience, or at least get some very quickly.
So it sounds like, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, it sounds like the only reason why they have that there is just to keep this up, to hold the individual accountable for the work.
Exactly.
That's their, it's just for accountability. So if you do what you're supposed to do, then that's not an issue. Because I just want people to kind of understand, it's there, but it's not hard to get that lien off of the property. It's just the way that they hold you accountable and make sure you get it done.
The theory behind it is this: there's a lot of blight in the city of Detroit. There's whole areas of blight around, and there were properties that have sat for years and years and years. There's a space. My father used to take me over there all the time. It's Livernois and the Lodge, right there, which I believe was damaged during the riots in '68. Right, I wasn't born yet, and I think that area is just now starting to get revitalized. That's over 40 something years, right? So basically, with all this blight everywhere, there's so much around, they don't want to contribute back to it. What happens is that there's various individuals that come out. There's investors from out of the state, out of the country, that'll buy up blocks and blocks of properties. It happened heavily during the foreclosure crisis, where Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac dumped, not non-performing assets onto the books, and some individuals got them, and they just basically started trading them back and forth and really didn't do any work to them. Well, these mom and pop areas that you left you nice long troughs of blight everywhere, and nobody seemed to know who the owners of these properties were, and they found out these were foreign investors or out of state or out of country investors. So, and they didn't care, and so it ended up bringing the property values down in the general areas. It ended up bringing despair and blight everywhere. Crime increased, and a lot of different things that spiraled into what we call 2005 to 2010. So to avoid all of this, or to put a handle on some of this, they put these rules in place so that it makes it a little bit harder, but a way to keep control of it, so we can pull ourselves out of this blight infested mess we have gotten ourselves in the city of Detroit and other urban areas, to make sure that we have an opportunity for, number one, the people that actually deserve and believe and can get these properties and fix them up, get into their hands, and it controls the amount of blight and decreases the amount of blight over time in the general urban area. So that is the reason why they're doing it. So I get it. Of course, I'm on the inside looking out, but I get it. I understand why it's so hard. It's supposed to be, and you would get it too, especially if you're in an area where you've seen the blight and you don't think any help is coming. It's coming, but this is what has to happen.
Yeah. It sounds like too, because when we hear because we hear a lot of bad stories about the land bank. Oh, they trying to take my house back and all of that, right? But it sounds like, from what you're saying, all they have to do is, first of all, they have to qualify to buy the home.
Yes.
And if they're staying in communication with the land bank and doing what they agreed to do, the land bank doesn't want to take the house back.
No.
So it sounds like a lot of those horror stories we're hearing is probably from people. They're either urban myths or from people that didn't really do what they were supposed to do.
They're usually urban myths from people that hadn't done what they're supposed to do. And they're also, in our community, we have a lot of gossip. The people that are probably doing the most complaining don't even have never owned a land bank property, but they heard from Uncle Billy that talked to his cousin Susie that had a best friends, mothers, uncles, father-in-laws, sisters, baby mamas, fathers, cousins, brother-in-law that knew somebody that on 3rd Street that did something. And by the time you play that telephone game, it goes all the way back, that whatever started off as this person did me wrong to they trying to have a big conspiracy theory that, you know, they out to get me. It is what it is.
Right.
But listen to this scenario.
Yes,
so
sir.
a scenario where somebody purchased the property from the land bank. They quit claim the property to another individual, the homeowner, the new homeowner. Maybe a year after they purchased it from land bank, you know, right when they're, you know, and there's been no communication with land bank. So now this individual who purchased it on quit claim deed without going through a title company is now about to lose their house because land bank is taking their house. Can that person, do they have any recourse at all? Like, will land bank work with that individual?
They have tried in the past. That's actually, you're talking, is this the alley-oop question because of something that really happened, which I already know that's where you're going, or because I can give you the reason why it happened.
No, it has never happened to me, but I'm saying those are some of the individuals who you see on the news saying, hey, land bank is trying to take my house. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
So there was a situation that happened with the lady, the HGTV lady on that one house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened is that there was a property that was in question that apparently the people were losing the property. They were in the process of getting it lost. And the actuality is that the land bank said, okay, you have lost the property. All right, you're done. And so they quit claimed, I don't know why she didn't do this, but they quit claimed the property over to her. She bought it, right? She didn't do a title search, but she's this big famous HGTV lady that, you know, supposed to know better, but she didn't do a title search. Just saying, don't know. So then she bought it, and then she got notice that, hey, land bank owns this property. You no longer, you know, they're taking it back. You bought it from the wrong, you didn't buy it from the right owner. So then she got on TV and filed a big lawsuit, right? And said, you know, it's not yours. Now, before she got to that lawsuit and before she got to the point where she was, you know, on TV crying foul and telling all the world, the land bank actually tried to work with her. They said, look, you know, I can't help you with the money that you lost from over here, but we'll give you opportunity to buy this property from us and give you the real deed and all that sort of thing. That was lost in the sauce. And so what happened is that when it all was said and done, they didn't come to an agreement. She felt she was wrong. So she was the loudest person on TV, right? So the land bank took it back and actually put it up for sale in February with one of our brokers. And so this thing dragged out, and she actually lost her case twice. All right. And so that's why she still cried foul. Now, here is the technical thing that happened. Did you guys end up finding out what happened with that at the end?
I didn't know much about it.
Okay. She ended up winning the case. She ended up getting the property back, even though she was declared twice that it was wrong. You want to know why?
Why?
Right.
Because unfortunately, when the land bank took the property back, they didn't file the reconveyance deed in time. So her quitclaim deed beat out the reconveyance deed. They caught it, so they got caught on a technicality. So even
Michigan is first to record.
Exactly. So that so even though she was wrong, by default she won because she ended up being her deed went ahead of the reconveyance deed. So, and due to the pandemic, things got backed up and behind, and that's what happened.
Wow. But but to answer your question, the answer to the question was yes, they may, you know, in certain situations they may work with you if it makes sense.
They will again, they don't want to, okay, a lot of this stuff is political, right? At the end of the day, when as part of, you probably will ask me this later, but as part of this this vetting process and the approval process, I think the final thing goes to the city council for final approval, right? Usually it's a rubber stamp, but they have a say in this. And you know, anybody can go to a city council meeting and anybody can say that nobody gave them the opportunity and this, that, and the third. And you know, you got 3 to 4 billionaires working and everybody already assumes that, you know, the big boys with all the money are getting the best properties. I cannot convey neither whether true or not. But at the same time, there is an opportunity for the common person to get properties if you follow the protocols and the guidelines. But of course, everybody has their conspiracy theories on those things, right? So the land bank has gotten a bad rep from everybody, realtors included, but from the inside, I understand it now. Again, 96,000 properties. There's not 96,000 people working at the land bank, right? And there's only a few of us out here, you know, doing it. They got to keep track of these that's on the market and not on the market. And if you're blowing up their phones all day about asking about 1 or 2 properties, they can't do the work that they're paid to do down at the land bank. And we're just coming through a pandemic. So you also got, you know, attrition changes and staffing and, you know, budgetary cuts because of the fact that, again, we're just coming through a pandemic. So you got a lot of different variables going around in this. And on top of that, publicity, good, bad, or otherwise.
So Ken, you touched on something too. How long does it take from the time how long does the purchase process take? And I'm talking about for the average everyday person trying to buy a single family home. Just kind of walk us through that process.
I will preface my answer like this. I have been with the land bank a little over a year. I'm going into my 2nd year. And my beginning was at the beginning of the pandemic. So therefore, my orientation as Eugene Kelley land bank agent started on a Thursday, and the next day they closed the schools. So my experience is fully through the pandemic. So that being said, what is supposed to happen is that you submit your proposals to me. I package those proposals up and put them in the proper format, and I submit them to the land bank. The land bank will put a deadline on the popular properties. They'll put a deadline on when they're going to be done. You know, when the last highest and best will be available, and say they might put that out there 30 to 60 days out because they want to make sure that the property has enough exposure, just like the foreclosures. They want to make sure that it's exposed long enough so that all the people have the right to see it and make sure they have proper notice for the property. After that exposure period is up, they're supposed to go through and take the property through the various vetting entities. Now, it is not one person that takes looks and gives a rubber stamp to these things. What you're doing is that you're doing a proposal. So therefore, there's various teams that meet either weekly, bi-weekly, bi-monthly, or what have you, or quarterly, that basically review these things. They have teams that meet throughout the month that have to go through, and these offers go through this amount of scrutiny per house. The more the offers, the more the scrutiny is, and the more they have to vet and do certain things with these properties. Once they actually get a person or get an offer they like, they will then send a purchase agreement to me, which I will send to the agent or to the person to fill out and sign. We'll give them a period of time to sign that said purchase agreement. Once they sign that purchase agreement, I will pin the property. Again, now we're looking at from the time that the house has been put on the market to the offer was submitted, we might be talking about 1.5 to 2 months, potentially, right? And this is all pandemic based. After that property is signed and that earnest money is in, Then it goes to, I think final review, which would be, final review would be going in and getting it signed off on and approved by a city council. Now the city council, it only meets once a month and it's at the end of the month. So if I were to get that purchase agreement, probably, on the 1st or the 2nd of the month, it'll be in by, as long as it's in by, I think by the 16th, it'll be on that docket for that month to be signed off on. And then once it's actually signed and gotten back to me, it's assigned to a title company, and we're looking at between 15 to 20 days from that point. But again, you got to get there. So the biggest weight that you have to deal with is initial offering and vetting process and getting the purchase agreement signed. But once you get to a purchase agreement position, you typically should be fast tracked and ready to go. But again, this is all based, these are all pandemic based numbers. So I don't know what normal is, because my normal is pandemic.
That's normal.
Yeah, it's gonna be normal for a while.
No, I'm just saying, like, even before the pandemic, when I purchased land bank properties, that process was still a little bit, once you buy the house, you're thinking that you're going to closing, because it's a cash deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like you're sitting up waiting for a few weeks. And it's kind of like, okay, what's happening? And they don't really, explain to you the insides details of, like, why it's taking so long. It's just more so like, be patient.
Right. Now, the good part about it, because they are reaching out to us realtors, we're getting the brunt of the questions. And, oftentimes, you got to be patient with us, because we don't know. We know when we know. And so when people say, well, how long is it going to take? I don't know. It could take,
You know what? Anytime I do try to reach out to the land bank, I always get a pretty good response from them, though. Or, then they sign you like your caseworker or your district agent or whatever. They normally respond pretty well directly.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a question, though, that we didn't get a chance to hit on. And it's, you said that you list the properties on the MLS. You're one of the agents, that have the opportunity to do that. And I was just wondering, like, what are some of the pros? Why would I want to go down there and do that as an agent?
Mm-hmm. Well, I joined the land bank, number one, as a real estate agent. You always want to be relevant, right? I always tell this story to new agents all the time. My license number is 293908. That was my original license from 1999, right? What that means in the state of Michigan, there's 293,907 other agents in the state of Michigan before me. So now the license number are like 4 something. That means it's over 500,000 agents in the state of Michigan, all vying for the same stuff. And you got to be relevant. So the more information that you know about the market and everything like that, the more chances your phone is going to ring. So also what I've learned is that the Detroit Land Bank is a good amount of property and we're in the deal of selling property. Now, is it the money that's getting there? You got volume. Yes, if you sell properties, and there's always going to be somebody calling you, because that's the hot topic right now, just like foreclosures. The other thing too is that it gives me an insight, which I'm starting to learn here, is that as they start releasing various properties in various parts of the city or the area, I usually see within 4 to 6 months something else larger coming across, right? A lot of the properties I have for sale, they might give me maybe 2 or 3 properties, maybe a house and 2 vacant lots on one street. But then I look around on the area and I look across the street and I do some searching. The land bank owns across the street too. Land bank owns the rest of the block.
They do.
So what happens is that they might be, I'm guessing, I'm assuming, they might be testing the market to see if that's a good development area. So oftentimes I as an agent might be getting the heads up on what some stuff is coming down the road. So that's good information to have if you're trying to separate yourself from these other 300,000 or 400,000 agents in the area, right? I might be able to push, tell my investors, hey, this looks like crap, but guess what? Something might be coming, because there's a method. I believe there's a method to their madness. They're not just releasing properties just randomly all over the place. There's some reason, because I've got a property right now on McKay Street, 13114 McKay, and I got one on 2087 McKay on Meade Street, which has a lot of vacant land with it. That's in probably the higher end of near Hamtramck, right on the border. And as I went to go visit that property, and when I got to the end of the block, there's all these DTE trucks at the end of the block putting in, infrastructure. It's a whole blighted neighborhood, but you got a whole bunch of utility trucks putting in new stuff for some reason. I don't know why. But maybe we'll hear something in a couple of months of some major somebody coming to town. But here I am, possibly at the beginning of said something coming to town, as opposed to you'll never know. It'd be like Nostradamus. 6 months from now, hey, they're doing this big old. Yep, I knew about it. Great. So it's all that's a good thing. It keeps your phone ringing. It keeps you in the know. You know, it helps you to strategize or help you to possibly see what's going on in the city and gives you a better idea of what actually is possible. So,
Gotcha.
So your cons. You have a, you know, it's typically certain, you know, you'll get your regular commission, you'll get your percentage that we ask for, but there are minimum commissions. That's a good thing. But the thing about it, the wait time, yeah, you may be waiting a couple of months for your properties, but if you get into a groove, I say a pipeline, right? If you put enough properties in the pipeline, you'll always have something closing. You know, once we get out of this pandemic, or once we get a little more handle of said pandemic, if you have enough properties going in, you got enough offers going in, you'll have enough offers coming out. So it's not going to be a hell of a lot of money, but it's going to be consistent work. You know, you always like to have consistent work. And again, you know, I'm glutton for punishment. I like the stuff.
Mm-hmm. You like the learning experience.
I like the learning experience
that comes along with it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Oh
yeah. So your other cons, I guess, would be one of the things they make us do. They make us what is it? They make us log every phone call. Okay. So every time if you call me about a property or Zillow, what have you, I have to log it and be able to track that phone call. And at first it was kind of hard, but I figured out a system to do that. So I can keep control of it. I got a document that I use to control that, and it's pretty cool. So, and I think the other brokers have their own way to do things as well. So it's a lot of paperwork, but I'm good with it.
All right.
Okay.
So we got quick thing. So we're talking about land bank and acquiring the properties, and we're talking about, you know, a lot of people are looking for development and what are some of the other benefits. And we got Ken Scott on the line, who's been sitting by quiet, and we want to ask Ken some questions about like NEZ and some development. And I think Ken mentioned before about some areas that people should focus on. So Ken, can you tell us exactly what is the NEZ zoning and what does it stand for, and how does it benefit individuals as well as developers?
Absolutely. The NEZ was started in 1999. It was basically an incentive to buy homes as a primary residence, meaning that you had to live in the home, you had to eat, sleep, and do whatever in the home. In doing so, you had an opportunity to take advantage of a tax abatement as it relates to the property that you were buying. The abatement lasted for 15 years. The way you would access the abatement is to go down to the assessor's office, make sure that you have the deed, make sure that you have $500 worth of work, whether it be lawn service or snow removal or whatever the case may be, or anything that you were to do to repair the home or renovate the home. Just state that you have that in a receipt form. And at the same time, carry your driver's license, your ID, your deed, and what have you. It is seldom used in some of the most desirable historic areas within the city of Detroit. It was based on 52 subdivisions of the city. Most people would think that it equates to communities, but it is subdivisions. Those subdivisions cross the line of various communities. Some of the most prominent communities and what have you. If you will allow me to share the screen, I can bring up some of those communities.
Yeah, you can share your screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You have communities like Arden Park, Berry Subdivision. I'm going to give an example of Berry Subdivision because it was very instrumental in getting the NEZ done. The Boston Edisons, the English Village, the Golf Club, the Sherwood Forests, the Green Acres, the Indian Village, the Palmer Woods, the Berg Lasher. I mean, most people equate it to And the majority of the NEZs, neighborhood enterprise zones, historic districts homestead districts are based between 6 Mile and 8 Mile, John R. and Southfield. That's all within District 2 for the most part. Now, there are going to be some things that are going to be addressed at the city council table, if they haven't already, where they're going to take some of those NEZs away from District 2 and do a a redisbursement of some of the NEZs across the city of Detroit. Most of the NEZs are in District 2, District 1, District 4, and District 5. Now, there are 3 NEZs. One is the Homestead District, which you see before you right now in the 52 subdivisions. It's more, oh, I see it on the side. There's 52 subdivisions, and it's all the way across the city. But at the same time, these are the homestead districts. The other 2 districts are those homes or those developments that are newer and those developments that need rehab. As it relates to the ones that are newer, you have to do that before you break ground. You cannot do that afterwards. And the reason being is I was a real estate agent at Washington Real Estate on Livernois in 1999. We had most of the properties of, at that point in time, his name was Jerome, well, his name is Jerome Morgan. But at that time, his development was called Castle Construction. He also presently has a development called Morgan Estates down by the river. If you've ever heard of Sandbar or something like that, those are his developments. In 1999, people were buying in the Joseph Berry subdivision, which is down McClellan, Dwight, what are the other ones? The names escape me, but at the same time, it's about a 5-block area down by the river, and including the Manugia Mansion, the home of the mayor. In doing so, when they were developing down there, they were building homes in the range of $300,000 to $500,000. Somewhere after the development was done, they start receiving tax bills the following year. They went from a tax bill of somewhere around $3,000 to $4,000 to about $20,000 to $25,000 overnight. So there had to be some remedy involved. And our former mayor, Kwame Kilpatrick, when he was in the state legislature, he was over the Black Caucus of the House of Representatives, as well as Virgil Smith, who is one of our senators, was past senators and what have you, state representatives. They enacted they brought forth the neighborhood enterprise zone. Now, the neighborhood enterprise zone states that 15% of the municipalities' subdivisions can be utilized for neighborhood enterprise zone, whether it be the homestead district or the new development or the rehab projects. A lot of the new projects have occurred, obviously, downtown and midtown, but at the same time, that's the development. And there's a good portion that's not being utilized. That's where the city council is presently doing some reallocation of the NEZs, because like I stated, most of them were in District 2. There were several hearings prior to COVID where the communities that had NEZs and those that want the NEZ were petitioning the Planning and Development Department to allocate certain areas of their communities for the NEZ, so they could spur some of the interest, as well as retain the present residents. But at the same time, also, once the property was sold, they could instantly attract new residents and keep the areas viable. One thing that the NEZ does is stabilizes the community, provides a tax break for those individuals that are purchasing, and at the same time provide a tax base overall for the communities that are within these present subdivisions and the newly established subdivisions once the city council has enacted those. You had a question?
So let me ask you this. So the idea behind this was that so people were getting these huge tax bills, right?
Mhm.
So that was kind of making the higher end properties in Detroit unattractive when you compare them to living in the suburbs for the same
Correct.
price for
Correct.
lower property. So this kind of helped solve that problem by reducing the property taxes on those higher end properties, correct?
Absolutely,
Okay.
because the one thing you don't want to do is lose your tax paying base.
Right.
And those
What
individuals
about
could have easily sought being across 8 Mile, Telegraph, Kelly, the river, whatever the case may be, in Southwest Detroit. So
what about how does this benefit like not just the homeowners or develop? What about people that are buying properties to fix and flip? Is there any benefits to investors that are, is it any benefits to investors that are fixing and flipping properties?
initially, no, because it's primary home ownership only. Now,
Right.
once we have acquired the property, renovated the property and what have you, and they sell it to a primary homeowner, that person can take advantage of the NEZ.
Okay.
If you're doing development and you're doing it solely for the developing of a specific area or renovating a certain community, then you can take advantage of it there as an incentive for people to purchase, but not as a development ad.
So they should apply for their, if they're doing development, when should they apply? When they start or after the properties are completed?
Before they break ground and before they start
Okay.
having any project.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because like I said, it's a means to stabilize the communities. It's a means to attract new people. As time goes on, we have older and older residents, obviously, and those older residents are moving out of the homes and what have you. When you look at the market in general, and a good example of the community is the Bagley community. At one point in time, the architecture itself looks like University District, or say New Martin Park. The architecture looks like University District, which is either with Bagley is to the west of University District, to New Martin Park, it's to the south of University District. That architecture is the same. The only thing that differentiates it is the size of the home. But at the same time, when you buy properties in those areas and when you're rehabbing properties, it's not the old mom and pop, grandma and grandpa house and everything with the paneling, with the wallpaper, with the shag carpet, whatever the case may be. Right. People are buying it as an investment in order to flip it, to make sure that the property is contemporary looking and acceptable and attractive to the individual that's buying it. It hence has done that in both communities and other communities, but more importantly, when it's done that and what have you, those people are within Bagley and Martin Park is experiencing a boom, basically, because it's actually caused the properties to appreciate greatly because of the comps in the area, because of the appraisals in the area. Bagley has gone from somewhere around 80, 85 or something like that, all the way up to 300 grand, depending on the style of home. And then again, in those areas, you also have multiple families that have been reconverted or converted into single family homes, which makes that home just as big as the ones in University District presently, and can accommodate families as well.
Okay, so as an investor, back to what you were saying in regard, so as a developer, if you come in there as a developer, you need to apply. for this NEZ, what is it, grant?
Well, you're buying it as an investment. You're breaking ground. If you're breaking ground, that's when you want to apply for the NEZ.
Correct.
In the homestead districts and what have you, it doesn't affect the homestead districts.
Gotcha. But what I'm saying though is
That's only because the person that's buying it as a primary residence will be able to take advantage of it.
correct. So if you're a flipper, you don't have to apply for it. You don't have to do anything. If you're a flipper,
You don't have to do anything.
Yeah,
You don't have to do anything. If you're breaking ground, say in an area that is not presently developed, and you want to develop housing or housing units, then you apply for it then because you're breaking ground. That's considered a new construction NEZ.
Got you.
When you're already in a area such as the areas that's up on the screen, you don't have to apply for it because that's going to be what do you call it, an incentive for those persons buying it as a primary residence.
So to the flippers out there like ourselves, we do flip some houses, because I never knew that. I never knew that that was something that we could add, or is a value add for us when we're flipping our properties, is that this property is located in the NEZ zone. So you have these tax abatements, pretty much.
Exactly. Matter of fact, if I were to do some investment, I would use this strategy in order to buy homes so that my future buyer would be able to take advantage of this, and you could use it as an incentive to sell the property.
Correct.
For those individuals that are outside the city, that are with some of the bigger brokers outside the city in the suburbs and what have you, that are not knowledgeable enough about the area, they miss this whole point. Okay, because this could be an incentive. Sure enough, the home is an incentive, but at the same time, the tax abatement and now the insurance and now the college plans that are in these respective communities because of the Detroit College Fund and what have you. This could be these are incentives to buy in Detroit. Major incentives. They have looked elsewhere before.
All right.
So I see a lot of times some properties where they have like, it'll say like the NEZ zone, and it'll be like, I think it was like 15 years or something like that.
It is 15 years.
Okay.
Like I said, keep in mind that each municipality has 15% of their parcels where they can allocate it to the NEZ, whether in the city of Detroit or suburbs or whatever the case may be, they can allocate it specifically for that. But in the suburbs, there's no need because they have a steady migration. I wouldn't even bring it up because of certain advantages people perceive as being out in the suburbs and what have you. They don't need that incentive.
Right.
But in the city of Detroit, I mean, in these subdivisions where Detroit can be different from block to block or community to community, or skip over a community and what have you, this may be the very incentive that attracts them and retains a residency and stabilizes the community as well as the tax base.
Right. So what are some of the areas? I think you had mentioned, like, you know, kind of like everybody's trying to stay between like 6 and 8 mile. Where are some areas where, like, say if someone is acquiring a bulk of land bank properties and they want to use something like this, what would you suggest, or what are some areas where you see that all of this together would be beneficial for maybe a developer or individual investors?
Okay, as realtors, we have a tendency to deal with clients that are only interested in a certain stretch from 6 mile to 8 mile.
Right.
There are so many other areas that are in East Detroit, East Side, Southwest Side, Central area, along the Woodward corridor and what have you, that we have yet to invest in and what have you, that are just as stable as those areas between 6 and 8. Okay.
Right.
On the east side, you have West Village, you have Morningside, you have in the central area, you have Woodbridge, you have Corktown. I mean, it's not exactly inexpensive, but if you know anything about Corktown and Woodbridge, but it's going up.
Yeah.
But you have areas like Oakman West, Oak Park Boulevard West, Oak Park Boulevard East, Outer Drive East. Let's see what else. Russell Woods, Aviation Subdivision over by Joy and Tireman, west of Wyoming to Schaefer. You have Myers, which is the Myers West Outer Drive, which is the Blackstone community. You have the Schaefer 7-8 area. You have the San Bernardino Park area that's right off the lodge in 7 Mile to 8 Mile, all the way up to Southfield. You have the Outer Drive on the east side. You have the Riverside District. You have Warren Rouge Park area. What our clients basically ask for are areas within certain zip codes. They may be the 48221s, the 235, the 223s, and the 219. But you have areas over LaSalle Gardens, Longfellow, what else? Minnock Park, what else? East English Village. All those areas are still NEZs. They still offer the same incentive, the 15 years, anywhere from 18 to 35% off your taxes. And it's an incentive for you to buy within the city of Detroit. Then there are certain lending institutions that have programs specific for the city of Detroit and people that want to buy within the city of Detroit. So like Liberty Bank and what have you. Those entities are going to be prominent in the city of Detroit for some time. They've already established grants, 3 cycles of grants. They've run out the first 2 cycles. They added another cycle of grants. The Opportunity Resource Fund, which is a nonprofit, not even wanting you to be a certain credit score, but at the same time, they just want to know if you're paying your bills on time, and you can acquire home ownership. So all those entities packaged together and what have you could be a great incentive for you to invest and live and buy a home within the city of Detroit.
Reginald, if I may, if I may,
go ahead.
I usually tell people, especially from out of town or what have you, that are getting to know Detroit. Detroit is like a big wagon wheel, and it all emanates from downtown. And as you look at it, downtown is where all the players are playing. You got 3 or 4 billionaires playing downtown. You got Penske, you got Illich, you got Chorus, and you got the Fords, right? So since everybody's downtown and that's where everybody wants to be, you also have 5 different streets that are coming out of downtown that go all over the city. You have Woodward, you got Gratiot, you got Jefferson, you got Grand River, and you got Michigan Avenue. So what I tell people, all these streets emanate from downtown, and you got all the big boys playing downtown where the big money is. But a lot of our development is basically on those areas. So I tell people to start downtown, get on one of these streets, drive where you can afford it, stop, buy everything around it, and wait. Because eventually, over time, if you look at it, a lot of our major development that is coming soon is gonna come off one of those arteries. Absolutely. So that's another option as well. Because the other thing I would
I'm sorry, James.
Go ahead.
The other thing that I would suggest is that this 6 to 8 mile is saturated. Okay. There used to be a time when we would the employees would go to a high rise and what have you, and go in that building and wouldn't come out till late, start early and come out late at night and what have you. But since COVID, we're working from home for the most part. So it doesn't matter whether your home is next or a few miles away from your business. You can be relocated anywhere within the city of Detroit if you choose to be. So diversify. I mean, look at other areas. If you feel as though one area is more saturated than the other, and you've been running up against multiple offers and highest and best and what have you, why not consider another area that's just as viable, that has probably even more so going on the other side of town? And the only reason you know about this area is because you heard somebody talk about 48221 and 235 and 223 and 219. When you go to 224 and what have you, it's a whole different world. And I did a study in my own study where I've looked at properties around the city of Detroit. And if you look at the 2-mile perimeter around the city of Detroit, from 6 Mile to 8 Mile, from Mack to Jefferson, or down by the river, from the other side of Joy.
Ken, while you're talking, can you go to slide 10 on your thing so we can see because it shows like a city map. So when you're talking, people can kind of see a visual.
Absolutely. These are proposed areas where there are homestead districts already, and proposed areas where it might be reallotted. If you look at the upper left-hand corner, you see areas where it's the Berg Lasher area, I can't think of the other area. Then you have the concentration of NEZs up at the very top center. And then you have, if you look down Grand River, which is about 1.5 inches down, and it's kind of angled, you'll see Grand River, like Gene stated. If you look at the other end of this wheel, you see Gratiot, and then you see Woodward coming up the middle, and then you see Jefferson along the riverfront, and then you see Michigan avenues springing out and what have you. All those are thoroughfares that the NEZ is around and probably within 5 to 10 miles of. So there are more communities out there that we could be investing in, that we could say, listen, you're losing out on these offers. Why not consider another area where the residential district is just as good, the commercial district is just as good, and the school district is just as good.
So what it sounds like, hold on, Ken. So what it sounds like, and I have to say this for our audience, what it sounds like you're saying is, if one area is oversaturated and you're looking to buy or invest and it's so much competition, just start looking at the entire map and look at where there's more opportunity for growth and a bigger upside in some of these areas, right? Because a lot of people are thinking like, well, where is it hot right now versus to where the ball is going to be landing a year from now.
Absolutely. And in essence, what you're doing is putting all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
Okay. You need to diversify. If you look around the perimeter of this map and you go, say, 2 miles out, you see McNichols at the top. You see Evergreen, the Telegraph, the 5 Points up on the left hand.
Wait, let me stop you right there too. So for our audience, McNichols is actually 6 Mile, because all the out of towners be like, what's up with 8 Mile or then 7 Mile? Exactly. McNichols is technically 6 Mile. So when Ken is saying 6 Mile to 8 Mile, he's saying McNichols to 8 Mile. And here locally, anything east or west of Woodward is how we determine the east from the west side. So when you're looking at a map and you see East McNichols, technically that's the east side. So it's East 6 Mile or West 6 Mile.
All right, Reggie, you just opened up a can of worms, because you know what?
Oh, man.
All right, the debate is on now.
Right.
whether you call it 6 Mile or you call it McNichols.
Right.
You know both, but at the same time, it's what you're accustomed to.
Exactly.
And
6 Mile.
yeah,
It's just like
where I am.
Finkel. Who calls it Finkel? It's 5 Mile.
That's true. But depending where I am and everything, you have to be fluid.
Right.
Hey,
That's just for Detroiters.
6 Mile over here.
I might say, because I'm not from Detroit and I call it McNichol.
Okay.
It's like you
That's
call
how
it
we know
Lasher.
you're not from Detroit.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I've grown up calling it both, but at the same time, like I said, it depends on the audience. But if you look around the perimeter of this map, the 2 mile stretch, you will see where there is more diversity within that 2 mile perimeter around the city than in the inner most parts of the city.
Right.
Okay. You'll see that the neighborhoods are more stable in that 2 mile perimeter than in the central part of that city. You will see that there's more commercial retail in that 2 mile perimeter than it is the core of the city. You will see that there's more school districts in more schools and how people perceive of them within that 2 mile perimeter of the city and not the core of the city.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
So looking at this map right here, it looks like the west side has the vast majority of the NEZ qualifications.
Well, there's a reason for that as well.
Okay.
You have to look at the time of 1999 when the area that is mostly saturated with the NEZs was the most densely populated. Okay, if you look outside there, you have the sparsely populated areas and the industrial areas within the city of Detroit where it wasn't viable to put the NEZ. As time goes on, and that's the reason why the city council is reconsidering whether NEZs are allotted, that's why the reallocation is happening. Because there's going to be further development down between 75, well, both 75 and 375. But obviously, as it relates to the riverfront and what have you, and more development happening along the Aretha Franklin Amphitheater and what have you, that whole district down there, where it used to be nothing but nightclubs and warehouses, those are being repurposed. So you're gonna have NEZs down there for new development. Where in the areas where it's mostly saturated on this screen, where all the numbers are, that's mostly a residential area.
Yeah, because I'm looking.
So let me.
And already developed. That's the homestead districts.
Gotcha.
So when I talk to people too, and they're talking about emerging areas, so where they have the most opportunity to buy like a bulk of lots or vacant lots. So I have a few people that actually reached out to me about, you see that Tyreman Warren area over there? And then on the east side, like that Mac Gratiot, Van Dyke, and Mac down to Kirchville, there's like huge chunks of just vacant lots connected, but they're all owned by different government entities. But even though they're not highlighted in the NEZ zone, there's still opportunities to develop there. And I think people are not looking that far ahead.
Well,
would you agree?
If you look at the Tyreman Warren area that you just talked about, that number 24 is the aviation district.
Right.
All right. So believe me, there's excellent housing stock in the aviation.
Aviation sub is lovely. It's always been.
To me, it was the predecessor to Oak Park and Redford.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, because it's nothing but ranches and maybe raised ranches over there.
You got your boulevards.
Exactly. Then you look at Southwest Detroit, which is right below that, Reggie, the Tyreman, the Warren area that's going toward Southwest Detroit and the river.
Right.
Obviously there's going to be more development there, but there's more homes there that are older historic ilk that you would be hard pressed to find some vacant contiguous land over there.
Right.
At the same
Right.
time, like Gene knows and what have you, there are areas like when we had gone over to the Emma's fair,
Mhm.
you know that there's vacant land over there because I didn't know where we were going that day.
Mhm.
Okay. I was
Right.
like, hey, I'm glad I know her because I know I ain't being set up.
Right.
She did call it a hidden gem.
Oh,
So,
believe me,
Right.
it
And it was hitting.
It was hidden.
Right.
Right, but then you go over to the Mac Gratiot area where the new plant is being built for Chrysler.
Mhm.
Right.
Then you go over north at the very top where the State Fair is now going to be the home of the new Amazon plant. Okay,
Right.
building. So you have development that's going to be spurred in Northeast Detroit. And the areas that have always been considered the most
Dilapidated.
no, not dilapidated, vicarious community, okay,
Mhm.
are going to undergo a renaissance as well, because
Absolutely.
what was existing over there prior is not going to be allowed for too much longer because everyone is planting their flag in the ground or their stake in the ground to do new development.
Yeah, it's the same
Right.
for that Van Dyke 94 area. You know, they just transformed Kettering.
Exactly, and I can't remember what entity took its place, but at the same time, there's that whole corridor down Van Dyke in Mount Elliott. Oh, that's going to undergo a change like nobody's business, and it's going to be rapid.
That's the Dakota Automotive.
Okay, exactly. It's a supplier of automotive supplies.
Mhm.
It's going to undergo rapid change.
All right. So let's wrap this up for today because we want to get you guys back on again, and then we also want to tell people how to contact you. But a quick mention too. So Ken and Eugene, and I'm assisting as well. There's an urban mastermind group that's been put together to educate the consumer as well as real estate professionals. So look out for anything that they're posting on Facebook, Instagram, any social media platforms. Gene is actually on LinkedIn, so I'm on LinkedIn
I am as
too.
well.
I am too.
But
I am as well.
Ken, can you tell the people how to reach you?
Yeah, sure. My phone number is 313-819-7065. My website is cswrealestate.com. You can also reach me on Facebook at CSW /Candler Scott and Wallace Real Estate on Facebook. You can catch me on LinkedIn. I absolutely hate Twitter, so you're not gonna catch me there. or I won't catch you there.
Right.
But you can catch me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
All right. And Gene, how will people contact you?
So I put some things in the chat. So I am email Kelley Group, KELLEYGROUP, the number 17 at gmail.com. My phone number, 248-506-1257. If I don't answer, just keep calling. I'll get to you soon enough. I do have a website, www.realestate1.com/GKELLEY. And I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. Don't remember all the, just look for my name. I'm real simple. I don't have any special, code names. Just my first, my last name, and you'll find me on either Instagram or LinkedIn or any of those places. So, but yeah, best to call me or email me.
All right, sounds good. All right, so
Is that a wrap?
do your thing. Yeah.
Like us, please subscribe, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TSARE. There's something about real estate. That's all. What I missed?
That's it.
Sometimes-
Thank you all for the opportunity.
I will,
Thank you for coming in.
last piece, just like Ken said, we have our first urban education series. The first one is November 10th, Wednesday. It's going to be a Zoom call presentation. I'll be doing a presentation on how to write the land bank offers and teaching realtors more about the land bank. So that'll be Wednesday, November 10th at 6 o'clock.
Where is it?
Yes.
Zoom?
It'll be a Zoom. We'll have that link out to folks as when it's created. Yes.
Okay.
As soon as today.
And we'll
As soon as
promote it
today.
on our, we'll promote it on our, on this platform as well, so
Okay.
that it gets out. And for realtors, we'll make sure it gets out to all the realtors as well. Now, is this going to be open to the general public?
What I'm talking about?
Yes.
If we want, if it's a yes, if we want it to be, yes.
Okay.
Right. It's gonna be heavily realtor based because we're trying to do education for the realtors, but anybody can jump on. But
Okay.
we may have to translate based on the audience, because at this point, we don't care who learns this stuff. The more we get this out there, the better. And so as we start with the questions and everything like that, our job is to answer the questions, and then that may generate more questions. So as long as the information is out there, that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Gene, would you
Sounds
mind
good.
throwing that info on the chat?
The urban.
Where you put your number?
Yeah.
I don't think it's out yet. He said that the link isn't it. Well,
No,
when they get it,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I didn't ask for the link.
Oh,
Okay.
but Reggie, you're gonna know about it though. You're gonna know and be able to
Yeah,
share.
yep, I'll make sure our audience, our audience will get it. Just make sure you like and subscribe so you can get the alert.
My
And
man.
it's the Urban Education Series. It's gonna be November 10th. And
Mastermind.
Mastermind. And is at 6 p.m. And we'll put out the link in any of the promotional materials here in the next day or so.
I'm setting it up now.
All right, sounds great.
Appreciate y'all.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.